And so, dwelling on the transits, it's of course time for us to start looking at some charts to understand the details.
Yep.
And I cannot say I will give every single detail I look at for a transit, but I'm going to give like the big details. And some of the topics that really are affecting the world for a few years and now even a few more months in are what's going on with these states. These with Ukraine, of course, we've been worried for a few years now. Ukraine has been worried since 2014, if you ask them, but 2022 was certainly a very big hit. All right, not a positive one, not a positive hit. I've also brought Vucic's chart because of the recent events that are relevant for us, and Trump's chart because I wanted to show you how to glean certain things as we start comparing charts of leaders.
Okay.
And Zelensky. And why did I not start with Vucic? Because I'm speaking to Bratemoy, right? We have to speak about what's relevant and what's in your backyard
Correct.
and in
Correct.
your capitals. But I bear with me as I use this as a buffer to enter into why I dwell on this before Vucic's chart. Okay.
Right.
You see, we keep speaking about the moon and transits
Yeah.
of Saturn vis-a-vis the moon.
Mm-hmm.
The moon is very important for a leader's chart because a leader is responsible for the people. And those people are getting affected in one or the other way due to the mutually shared karma of the people and that leader. And the leader is at the forefront of dealing with that concern. So at first, when we talk about the moon, let us be right and say the moon is the significator of all the people. And if your leader does not have a positive moon, the people, you, the subjects, will suffer. Now, the question is whether the people are suffering at the behest of the leader or are they suffering in spite of the leader? Is it happening because of an external problem or the leader is causing the problem? And that kind of is a separate topic, if you ask me. But the moon at first glance has to be the focus. All right? So when we see Zelensky's chart and we see moon is actually an own sign over here, but it is joined this Mars over here, I'm sorry, that Mars is debilitated. Somebody will say, oh, Visti, but that Mars is debilitated and retrograde. Should it behave like exalted? You ask the Ukrainian people if they think they feel exalted, then you'll know. Check it out, see what's going on. Ask them, how do they feel? Do they feel like it's exalted Mars? Maybe they feel the bombs are too big. That's the exalted Mars.
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
after that, we have two more malefics. And Parashara does not speak well about malefics that succeed.
Yeah.
Okay? Like if you have two signs succeeding with malefics, they are contributing to the affliction of that particular graha, in this case, the moon. So I would have counted Mars, Saturn, Rahu all afflicting the moon in this context. It's a strange thing. It's called Graha Kopa Yoga. It's there.
Mm-hmm.
Parashara states if Jupiter's in the Lagna, there's, I think, Saturn in the second and Rahu in the third. It hurts mother in the fourth.
Okay.
Yeah. And it hurts the life of the child in the Lagna. But Jupiter saves the child. But there's danger.
Right.
So there's a yoga. It's given in the Rishta Adhyaya of Parashara. So if people ask, Visti, did you make this up? No, I can cite it and I understand the principle behind it. That is to say that commonly people don't know this yoga, this Kopa yoga, if you will, Graha Kopa yoga. But I say to you, look, moon is afflicted here. People will have an issue. All right. Do we say that the people are weak? No. We say they are being subjected to a problem. That's what we're saying. You could argue that moon is fending off that problem and the people are able to fend this off. They are strong people, but they are subjected to a problem. So in light of that, then when we start reading the transits for a leader, you can imagine how deeply it will affect the people. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, if you then say, oh, Visti, Saturn is currently transiting Aquarius. Before that, it was in Capricorn. Can you say that that was affecting the people of Ukraine because Zelensky, was not experiencing Sade Sati? And even if you go one step further and try to look for the lords of these signs, if you look at let's say the Lord of the 12th, which is Mercury. Mercury is not aspected by Saturn in Aquarius, nor was he aspected when Saturn was in Capricorn when the invasion began.
Yes.
What about if you go to the second house from the moon? Second house from the moon is lorded by the sun in Capricorn. Hello, that's a problem. So when Saturn entered Capricorn, it was going to affect his work. His work is for the people. So therefore, this is the time he experiences this suffering. It wasn't his family. It wasn't his kids. I wouldn't say that they would be bereft of a problem. They should. It's, after all, wartime. It affects everyone. His kids are still going to school. All right?
Yeah.
But as far as he is concerned, it's his job to fend for the people. So you could argue his job is under threat. Saturn transited the second lord from the moon. Hey, Visti, it worked. Sadhisati was working, right? Okay.
Indeed.
Now, the debate I'm going to have is, how big are his work problems? To do this, I have to examine the chart irrespective of the transit. First, I have to see that there's a transit. Okay? Then I have to think, how bad is it? All right? And I could do this from two perspectives. I could read only the transit. I could say Saturn entered Capricorn, it got invaded. How is Capricorn in the divisional charts? How big is the problem? I could open Navamsha, let's say. Let's see, we're just going to look at Capricorn and Navamsha. And then what do we see here? Capricorn is the fifth house. All right? And what does that got to do with people? Not much. In the D9 chart, 10th and 10th Lord have a big say on career, right?
Right.
So that Saturn is in Capricorn, it'll aspect Mercury, who is the 10th Lord in Navamsha. All right. That means it could indeed have an impact on his career in a big way. Yes. Notice I'm not using Sadhisati here.
Yeah.
I'm not using it. You could have argued, oh, this is 12th from moon, but then I say that's personal life. You can't do that. All right? Here I'm reading it as if, what is the Lagna? Gemini. 10th Lord, Mercury. Transit over, Saturn is aspecting Libra. In fact, it was around that time when Saturn was in Libra that they invaded Crimea, Russia. Or the skirmish happened in Crimea, the separatist movement. There was an invasion. Now, keep that Capricorn in mind, and we have now confirmed in Rashi that there's an issue in second from moon. In the Navamsha, there's an issue with 10th from Lagna. Now, if we open the Dashamsha, what are we going to look for? What is Capricorn? In the Dashamsha, Capricorn is the fourth house over here. Okay? And what does this got to do with anything? It's not aspecting the 10th anymore. But no. That's not my focus anymore. That is not my focus anymore. Because I've already verified it's a 10th house issue in Rashi and Navamsha. Navamsha 10th house, in Rashi it was second from moon, which is linked to our career.
Yep.
Now I want to be sure about what is the event, because I know it's bad, and I just don't know what it is. So all the houses in the Dashamsha are now relevant. What is it that is bad? Where is the bad? You could say this is transiting his fourth, Capricorn. His office of work is bad. His office is the kingdom, the whole country, all right? His seat is coming under pressure. The borders are coming under pressure. You could argue with this. Somebody will argue that 6th Lord Jupiter is aspected by that Saturn in Capricorn. So enmity is also there, all right? So invasion and whatnot. So we can make these inferences. Now, this is our first step, and all we did was examine the transit. That's all we did, just transit. Okay?
Absolutely.
But this is, if you ask me from a Jyotish perspective, this is me just verifying transits. This is not, in my opinion, useful. Because I have not understood how long this problem can last. The invasion happened when Saturn was in Capricorn. Saturn entered Aquarius, continued. Saturn has changed signs. The signs are now different. The drishtis are different. But the problem is still there.
Yep.
So I have to make an assessment in the Rashi chart to understand if a problem starts, how long does it last? This is not based on Saturn's transit. Saturn is only activating the problem. But what is the problem? So I now need to look carefully at the 10th house of work. Okay? The 10th house of work is Aquarius, and the Lord is Rahu over here, or Saturn. Among Rahu and Saturn, because Aquarius is lorded by two planets, Saturn is not stronger than Rahu. Saturn is opposite its own sign. Rahu is in own sign, Virgo. So Rahu is stronger. So now I look at Rahu and say, is Rahu a problem? You could argue that there are certain combos. I will say, from the perspective of the 10th, Rahu is in the 8th therefrom. So that means there can be a disturbance coming to work basis this. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now I need to be sure about the Karaka itself. Karaka for work is Mercury, and he's the Karaka of the 10th house, so he's Karaka for work and career. And he's in the 8th. So I say also there's a problem here. So I have discovered two problems.
Yep.
Now, any Bhava in the chart can have maximum of three problems: house, lord, and Karaka. Okay? If I get 2 out of 3, the problem is temporary, but I must always get 2. Otherwise, there's no problem, because one of the issues will always be the Karaka. The 2 others will be the house or the lord or both. It must always be Karaka, but maybe house and lord. That maybe is a dependency. If it's one of those, issue is temporary. If it's both, then the problem may not stop easily. It may not stop. Parashara states, if a problem is related to the 6th house and 6th lord and Saturn, you will have disease when it begins. It'll continue for the whole of life. That's what he states. It's his statement in the 6th house chapter. That before he even times when an issue starts, he can say, oh no, this is whole life. Then he starts getting into timing. So similarly, when we have the 10th house, the 10th lord, and the Karaka all afflicted, an issue can start and it may not end quickly. This is not entirely accurate, in my opinion. There is a slight inaccuracy in this, and that is that it is possible that either the 10th house, 10th lord, or Karaka is maybe afflicted or poorly placed, but is still having some strength in it vis-a-vis the Lagna to remedy itself. That means it can solve its own problem. For example, if I say that Rahu over here is a problem being in 8th from the 10th house, I must also come to terms with it's in 5th from the Lagna in own sign. Rahu will solve its own problem. Yeah. This issue cannot be lasting, lifelong. It cannot. But it will last beyond a transit. It will last beyond a dasha. Okay? Once it starts, it can last beyond Saturn's transit into, let's say, Capricorn. It can continue for a bit longer. All right? But it will be solved. Rahu is in trines. It is in a good sign. It will solve it. It's causing a problem to the 10th, but it will solve it.
Right.
But is the 10th afflicted to begin with to give us a long-lasting problem? Yes, Mars is aspecting. And now I'm going to say something controversial. Saturn is also aspecting. Visti, how can Saturn afflict Aquarius? It can if it's not lording. If Rahu lords, then Saturn can.
Because Rahu is stronger here. Yeah, yeah.
If Rahu is stronger, then Saturn can afflict Aquarius.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, because he's in a tug of war. He wants Aquarius for himself, and Rahu took it.
Yep.
So his aspect is going to put pressure on Rahu.
Right.
Because if Saturn gets to Lord Aquarius, Rahu has been kicked out. Now Rahu has become negative. So that game is being played, which is also interesting because this is giving us some leeway. We can convince Saturn to stop afflicting Aquarius. Rahu is not afflicting Aquarius, which means we can remove almost half the problem. All right?
Right.
This is a bit strange, but we astrologers can play a bit of a game here and say, what if we make Saturn stronger? Oh, oops, problem solved. How do we make Saturn stronger? He's in 4th, right?
Yep.
Property territory. Saturn, give up territory. Which is exactly what that ceasefire game is right now about. Whether as part of the negotiations, they will cede some territory to Russia. Okay?
Yep.
That doesn't mean I'm encouraging of this. Doesn't mean I'm accommodating of this. It doesn't mean I like the idea of any country ceding part of its population or property to another country.
Just reading.
I'm just seeing in the chart that this is what the topic will be about, which will stop half the problem. That Saturn says, I will give up some of my space. The Ukrainian people will be furious with the idea that some of them, having been born in the, let's say, the Donetsk region, the Donbass region, have to now be accommodating that their birthplace, even if they live in Kiev today or another country, belongs to Russia and not Ukraine. All right? They'll be furious. This is miserable. We are miserable just with the idea of somebody stealing, 1 meter of our property in our from our house. What to talk about a whole country, a whole towns and countrysides and whatnot, mines and whatnot that are also there, mineral deposits. Okay, there's a lot hanging here. And I say to you, but I understand this Saturn will let go, but he will let go through the fourth house. Something will be seeded for this to harden the dilemma, to harden the issue. And then somebody will say, but what if Putin wants more later on? And this is an issue. Look at that retrograde planet. He is going to play a nasty game over there. Retrogrades will play nasty games.
Yes, over and over again. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Again and again and again. And they will play dirty.
And in addition,
That is the problem.
Brihaspati, Mangal, Shani, all Vakri, all in one place there is his mind, in the other place there's his desires. They're not that cannot coexist.
It's very complicated.
Yeah.
Okay. Very complicated. It's hard. And Zelensky's chart is showing us why this is hard. This is why the leaders' charts are useful. So, but I've understood there are 3 problems here. Okay. I would have to confirm the 3 problems in the Navamsha, but there are 3 problems here that we understand. So now, when you see 3 problems, then what you do next is this. If I say that there is a problem on the 10th house, Parashara states that the 8th from the house, with the lord of it, specifically here Mercury, will tell me when it is going to happen in the Varga.
Okay.
So I have to look at Mercury now? That's what Parashara is stating. The 8th house from the 10th, its lord, seen in the Varga, here Dashamsha for career, will tell me when this problem arises. Okay.
Right.
This is a Saturn's transit method. I'm not using Sadhisati anymore. So I'm going to open the D10 and look at Mercury now.
In Karka, yeah.
It's in Cancer, indeed. So is Saturn's transit in Capricorn hurting Mercury? Yes, it's opposite. It's aspecting. The Parashara states, trine or 7th house is when it will be so. Now, if you combine this and you say, oh, Visti, trine and 7th, that could mean Scorpio, that could mean Pisces, that could mean Cancer, it could also be Capricorn. How many of those are afflicting second from moon in the Rashi chart?
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
Like, I know there are these options. Watery signs or Capricorn. Let me go back then. Let me try. Watery signs or Capricorn. Excuse me, here we are. So let's see. Let me put my crosses. It was watery signs or Capricorn. Second lord from moon is the sun in Capricorn. Done. That's one is the problem. That one is the one I'm going to look for. That's the issue. That's transits for you. All right?
Beautiful.
No beeswax here. Straight shot. That's the one I'm looking for. That is Jyotish. Now you're talking. Now you're not telling the person to do pujas all the time. It's like, no, this transit you have to do pujas in. Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Now I will reflect with you a little bit. When Saturn went from Libra to Scorpio, okay?
Yeah.
Then during its transit there, it had a retrogression into Libra. Okay? This was when Crimea was attacked, or when the separatist movement in Crimea happened. It's not an attack. It's a separatist movement that happened there, officially at least. Okay?
Yeah.
Ukraine will say it was Russia supplying all the weaponry for that. But this is what happened in Crimea. So now the question is, if Saturn retrogrades to Libra, is Libra the problem, or he was in Scorpio before he retrograde? So when we say in a tradition, no, we don't count the retrograde movement position because he was already there for a long time. It was actually when he was in Scorpio that he instigated the issue, and the retrogression is just reflecting on that issue. Okay? So what do you get? Scorpio was one of the problem signs?
Yeah.
Does it aspect the sun? Yes, it does. Third drishti of Saturn. Exactly.
Yes.
It works. Crimea, Saturn in Scorpio, during retrogression in Libra. Next one, invasion, Capricorn. All right. But the issue is still going on because this 10th house is miserable? You could argue now Zelensky was not in power in 2014. For some reason, his chart is reflecting that this is relevant to him. Okay? Somehow it's reflecting that. This is me debating, oh, but did he have any say in any form of governance during that time? Okay? Maybe he didn't. But it shows here that this is reflected in his chart somehow. So I have a debate. Should I even use this information about Crimea in his chart? Because I don't know how active he was in the state in that time. But I bring it up. Okay. Now, why does this method work? Why does this method of taking the 10th house, reading its afflictions, and if it's a problem, I read the 8th lord therefrom, which is Mercury. Why does this work? It tells me when the company you work for, or the leadership that is ahead of you, or the country which is the head of state, is suffering. This is why this method works. It's meant to tell me what is going on with the larger organization or umbrella organization that you are part of.
So the suffering of the 10, because the dukkha, the 8 from, yeah.
It's even used in different contexts to see the longevity of people in your life, to see when Saturn's transit can cause that. It's actually used in this way. This is why it works. So if somebody asks me, Visti, I'm not a head of state, I just want to know what's going on with my job, you can use this method because you still have a 10th house, right? You're part of an organization or a company. The 8th therefrom, which is the 5th lord, should be seen in Dashamsha, and when Saturn transits over that, that's when you can have problems in your career. But excuse me, make sure you also glean intensity vis-a-vis Rashi and Navamsha. Second lord from moon, check it out first. Get your first idea. Second lord from moon. Then open the Navamsha. Is there an affliction to the 10th? How bad is it? All right. Then go to the Shamsha. Confirm that it's actually happening. All right. Or you could do something, what I did, I went in reverse maybe. You could go to the Shamsha, figure out which signs there, put them in Rashi, and then see which ones are really the big ones. Right? You could do whichever. Choose which one you approach you want. It sounds complicated. It's not complicated. A little bit of work, then you'll figure it out.
Okay.
So that's what I would have shown with Zelensky's chart.
Beautiful.
And if I now play with this in a different way, we would approach another chart.
We can.